Good evening, everyone. My name is Mr. B. I'm your friend here, old friend Mr. B. Here, you can see where I am. This section of the house behind me, and this is the very first, showing of Politicking with Mr. B. I want to say a very good, big thanks to a gentleman, friend of mine, Blazeman, who's been able to put this together and all of this. And we're going to get on with this. I'm going to give some thanks to him, and I'm going to do what I can. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I know you don't see the flag behind me. We've got the flag right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's all begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I thank you very much, everyone, from joining in. Thank you, Blaze, for taking very good care of that. And that brings us to the very first subject. Before we get into that, I've got my nice cup here. There's a very wonderful gift from a fan we have all up in Waldoboro, Maine. The Lawler family, I want to say thank you very much. And their young daughter, who was selling the Girl Scout cookies. I've got these wonderful Caramel Delights Girl Scout cookies, folks. If you got a chance, get out, get them. It's a great reason to go out and buy cookies, and it's a really great thing to help support as the Girl Scouts. Now, we're going to get into this situation, their Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of people hear these things and they say, I don't want to pledge this, that. A lot of people don't know or understand or even think of it. It's words. It's recitation. It's something that they do, and whatever some people stand up, clap for it. Some people do whatever. Well, let's take a look, shall we, at what exactly the Pledge of Allegiance is and what it means. We'll take it words and so forth by words. It's me, one person, an individual. And I've heard this before. And I'm not trying to copy someone or usurp something, but it's the truth. It speaks I am the person who's making the decision to pledge, which means to promise, to willingly devote my support, my allegiance, a singular clarification of the fact of being faithful to the USA, to the flag of the United States of America, the flag, the standard that we look to, that represents our nation, and to the republic for which it stands. That's right. We are a republic. We're not a democracy. This isn't the place back 2,000, however many years ago in ancient Rome or whatever else. No, we are a republic. And that is a state in which the power rests with the people or their representatives. The power rests with the people, not with the people that claim they have the power. One nation. One nation. How many of you seen this on the money? E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. We are one nation. Unfortunately, for however many reasons, none of them good. In the last many years, we have become more and more divided, more and more separatist. And it is a bad thing. It is a horrible thing. It is a thing that, unfortunately, was proven wrong, or had to be proven wrong, and thank God was reunified after our Civil War. And we're a nation under God. That's right. I said the G word, folks. You see this? It's the Bible. It is the living word of living God. It is recorded history. God's there. He exists. And the founding fathers knew it. The people who were here before we became a nation, when first they came over from England and began settling, they wanted to worship God in their own way. They wanted the right to practice the religion however they saw fit. And that has been a staple in the minds and in the development and in the building of our nation ever since. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, it's time, friends, that we started putting other things aside and started bringing God back into our lives and realizing he's there. Whether you call him God or Jehovah or whatever, know that we're not alone and there is a higher being. And that brings us to indivisible, and that means the bond of all the states, which was codified and upheld by our own Civil War and all the bloodshed that happened, was not for nothing. A house divided upon itself cannot stand. How many times have we heard that? With liberty, freedom, and justice for all. Not liberty for some and others have to stay home. Not justice for some and the others must suffer under tyranny, but in equality. That is how our nation will remain and remember to be, always out of many, one. Not just certain color creeds or whatever. Freedom and equality rules across the board. Does that make things clear? Are you folks understanding what I have had to say? Are you stepping back and looking at these words and thinking, there's more to this than what maybe things have been said? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Every time the Pledge of Allegiance is said, it makes me think more about the sacrifices that were made, about the people who crossed with nothing more than blind faith, thinking there was something, hoping, praying there was something better for them. And with courage, striking out into an untamed land and doing their best to survive and build and thrive and become eventually a new nation. I certainly hope these things come and they rest sweetly on your ears, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that I'm anything. If you excuse me for right now, I'm going to try one of these. And these, get a look at that. Aren't those nice? Those are great. Ellie, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for inviting me to buy some of your cookies. That's great. I'm going to move on now. I want to talk a little bit about our national history and things that have been going on and the continued attacks and bastardizing of it, if you don't mind my saying so. And I got a little zinger here for your friend of mine, Sleepy Joe, Brandon, however you want to refer to it is. I'm going to read to you something here from something people seem to have forgotten about. It's called the Declaration of Independence. The unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. These in respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, Sleepy Joe. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, God, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their happiness, their just powers, from the consent of the governor, of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, this is important, I'll say this again, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. I'll touch more on that later on. Laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, and to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under the absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how's that grab you? We have here if you can hear in the frustration in the voices of the people. For how many years they were oppressed by a government which cared nothing for them, only wanted their tax money, and grabbed. And anybody who turned around and said no, or anybody who said, no, we don't want to do this or whatever else, guess what happened? They were jailed, they were deported, they were arrested, they were killed. I have here now something a lot of people never heard of. How many of you heard the story of the Boston Tea Party? Yeah, it was when a bunch of people are said to have dressed themselves like Native American people and gone to a ship in Boston Harbor and taken a load of tea that had gotten sent over from England and was supposed to be sent off in the colonies so that they could buy and pay for products from England and raise more money for England. And they've turned around and said, no, we're not doing it. So they took and they threw all of the tea overboard into Boston Harbor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what happened? 5 years before that happened, I have here a copy. It is not a repop. It is not remanufactured. This is actually a genuine copy of the Boston Gazette from 1770. That's right. The newspaper from 1770 in March the 12th of 1770, where they reported votes that were taken from the towns like Acton, Massachusetts, Bolton, Massachusetts, I believe it was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, all so many different towns. Each individually they elected to turn around and say that we're turning our back. We're saying, it's nice that we get products from England, but you know what? We make our own products here. We make our own woodenware. We make our own foodstuffs. We make our own flatware, sewware, plates, and so forth. We're going to trade and spread our money out amongst ourselves. We don't need it. It's very nice and so forth, but we're tired of paying money, and the money goes over to England, and we see nothing for it. And I'll read this to you. Let me see if I can. The inhabitants of the town of Acton, at their annual town meeting on the 5th Monday of March 1770, taking in consideration the distressed circumstances that this province and all North America are involved in by reason of the acts of Parliament imposing duties and taxes upon the inhabitants of North America for the sole purpose to raise a revenue, and when the royal ear seems to be stopped against all our humble prayers and petitions for redress of grievances that this land is involved in, and considering the statutory measures that the body of merchants and traders in this province have come into in order for the redress of many troubles that they are involved in, and to support and maintain our charter rights and privileges, and to prevent our ruin and destruction, making all their things into serious considerations, came into the following votes. Voted that we will use our utmost endeavors to encourage and support the body of merchants and traders in their statutory endeavors to retrieve this province out of its present distresses, to whom this town vote their thanks for and constitutional and spirited measures proved by them for the good of the province. Voted that from this time we will have no commercial or social connection with those who at this time do refuse to contribute to the relief of their abutted county, especially those that import British goods. It's a little bit difficult to read this, being that it's over 300 years old. And it goes on and so forth. This is long before the advent of the Boston Tea Party. And here you can hear this. Each individual town voted exactly the same way. They're saying, enough of this paying money for goods from the crown and taxes on top of it. We have our own things here. It's time for us to support ourselves. It is time for us to be on our own 2 feet. How often are you hearing of these things from your children when they come home from school? How often have you heard of anything at all like this? I know when I was young, I had learned about this. I know when a number of people my age and a little bit younger than I all know these things. Where has the history gone? It's there. It is recorded history. Here we have it. Again, it's confirmed to be an actual paper from 1770. It is recorded history. It happened. Yet now, unfortunately, we have such things that are going on. Have you seen? Apparently, there's some sort of a movement that is trying to convince children that not people like this, people with hoes and rakes and pitchforks and sweat and died of fever in a field somewhere or whatever else. No, the country was built by slavery. I've seen it. Some crazy thing, putting a notion that little things where everybody puts their hands up and it's children's voices saying, America was well built by slaves. Wrong. Wrong. America was built by the courage, by the sweat, by the grace of God, and by not only the people that came from other lands, but the people that were here. Some people call them the first people. Some people call them Native Americans. Some people call them Native American Indians. I choose Native American Indian. Why? Not just because it's a term that I like. I happen to be part one. That's right. A lot of people didn't realize that. I do happen to be part Native American Indian. So I have a pride and I have a thought in this in many different ways. And I look at this, and still, I look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and I swell with pride. I have pride for my country. I have thanks for the people who fought to establish it and make certain that on no uncertain terms that we are one nation, one of many. And we've grown. And we have grown. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to discount things, there has been the aberrant establishment of slavery on this land. I'm not going to say no. It has happened. And guess what? There has been slavery here. There has been slavery in Egypt. Don't believe me? Right here, recorded history, the Bible. Well, if you're the type of person who believes that's it. But slavery isn't something that was only because of us. Everybody turns around and says that, well, we have to do these things and give this and do that and whatever else. Whatever happened, there was a fellow that a lot of people really admired. Young man, president. At the time, I believe, was the youngest president. And he himself not only was a president, but he also set precedents. He was the first Roman Catholic person elected to the office of the presidency of the United States. And he was the youngest American at that time to be elected president. John F. Kennedy, who had said, ask not what your country can do for you. You should ask what you can do for your country. Where has that gone? Where is the spirit and American fortitude that carved out those words? Now we're looking at entitlements and gifts. and whatever else you want to call them and so forth, that are draining and turning our country into a bunch of mendicants walking around with their hands out. I have no problem with people who need a hand up. What I have the problem is people who need no help, but take a hand out anyway. And there is a lot of that. Let's call a spade here. I think the United States of America could be doing a heck of a lot better for a lot of things. We have so many homeless veterans. Hear about this? No, instead of homeless veterans, what do we hear? We want reparations. For what? Why am I to pay reparations to someone? I didn't enslave anyone. My family that came here from Italy kept no slaves. Came and settled here in New England. And the part of me from my family lineage that comes from out the area near Lake Huron, I hasten to believe that they didn't do very much in the world of these slave trades either. I mean, who is to receive these reparations? People who for generations never knew a taskmaster's whip? I think it's high time we turn around and started dealing with the real picture here that we have. How many homeless we have, how many veterans we have, and of those veterans that we have, how many of them are deeply in danger of committing suicide or worse, homicide and suicide. We have a lot of problems here in the nation, but we also have a lot of hope. We have a lot of stamina. We have a lot of strength. And by the way, here's a little something here for Sleepy Joe as well. Turn around saying how he's created more jobs than any other president and whatever else. You know, I may be wrong. Going to check some figures, whatever else. But you know, somewhere in history, there's a guy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, American Depression, World War II. How many of those people all started new jobs when things like that were happening? Through the Economic Recovery Acts and the NRA and this and that and whatever else they created. The more I hear out of our present government and those at the top and their mouthpieces, the more disgusted it seems to be that I become. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting on to about a half an hour right now. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe my dear friend on the other end of the line here, Blazeman, is probably going to be doing something. We're going to be breaking for a little bit, have a few commercials, take care of a couple of things, allow me to warm my coffee up. So I want to thank you very much. We'll be taking a break and we'll be coming back. And Blazeman, I'll leave this to you. Thank you very much. I'll see you in a few minutes, folks. Have a good time.
Ladies and Jerry from the Neutral Corner on FFN FN Media. Every Thursday night, 7 to 8, catch my show live. We are talking with legends, we're talking with professionals, we're talking with amateurs, we're also talking about gyms and the different programs they have. You can catch us live on FFN Media, 7 to 8 p.m. Not only can you catch us live, you can actually ask questions in the comments and interact with our guests. Hope to see you then.
Hey guys, Nick Parsons here. Come check my show Unbox Thoughts out. Live every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. on the FFN Radio Network page.
Why do you believe what you believe? Because at some point in your life, you trusted the information that somebody was giving you. And that someone you trusted told you that a car was a car, a tree was a tree, a bird was a bird, the blue stuff above you is the sky. And that's the way that we began to determine what we believe to be a fact. Most of the things that we believe to be a fact in our lives are told to us through our stories or the news that we hear. So my question would be, if they were deceiving you with the stories they tell you, would you be able to recognize that?
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm glad to see you. I'm Mr. B, and here we are talking today. This is, again, the premiere show of Politicking with Mr. B. I'm your host, Mr. B, here in Epping, New Hampshire, home of 3 of New Hampshire's governors, by the way, of which only one governor I know, a guy by the name of Prescott. The other 2, I can't remember. But, well, anyway. And as a matter of fact, we even had a president here, Franklin Pierce. There's a college named after him, Franklin Pierce, affectionately known to others in the local area as Fisher-Price College. That's the way it is. And I'm going to be continuing on now in our discussion a little bit about the bastardization of our history, our national history, and so forth. So, to recap, we've had people that have been living here since, the 1600s. We've had the original people that were here. But as things were established and time went on, they built up. Eventually, they had colonies and things were working, and there was commerce, and there were imports and exports from and to England and to other countries, France and so forth, and other nations, and things were going very good. And they decided, well, things had to go and break off because the crown, to which they were loyal, and they thought very deeply about this, they had to break off and do it. And they broke off, and they fought, and they died, and they fought more, and they gave everything they could to prove to the crown, we're not putting up with your crap anymore. We're not paying your taxes. We're not buying your goods and paying premiums and paying homage to you. We are our own people. We can govern ourselves. We're not going to let you take us away from our homes, bring us 3,000 miles away to punish us. And we're not going to let you take and garrison our communities anymore. And Civil War, no, not Civil War, Revolutionary War broke out. And an April morning on a field in Concord, Massachusetts, there were a bunch of people. Now everybody thinks that the Concord Minutemen were the ones that stood at that field, and they were wrong. And actually, the Concord Minutemen went in the wrong direction. A contingent of people from the town of Acton, Massachusetts, whom I had previously read from, and a district known as Boxborough, Massachusetts area. Hay farmers, tree farmers, whatever it is, farmers, all wound up out on that field. And a young fellow by the name of Luther Blanchard, about 12 or 13-year-old boy, was with them. And he was what was known as a fifer, played the fife, music for them. And when the shooting broke out, young Luther got himself grazed in the head, along with the other things, and things went on as they were. He got bandaged up, and so did so many other things. And there were skirmishes all over the place that eventually started breaking out. And we'll follow this all the way down now to the Battle of Bunker Hill. Cohorts and so forth that working together to fight against the British were there. He made it all the way down to the Battle of Bunker Hill, where young Luther, 13 years old, bandaged in the head from a musket ball earlier, was struck and died. So if you go to the area called Acton, Massachusetts, and you head up a little further out to the west on a road known as Route 111 in Massachusetts, you will come to the town of Boxborough, Massachusetts, where they have the Blanchard Memorial School. And there are a lot of things that are there that are dedicated to the memory of Luther Blanchard. And to the Boxborough District Minutemen, as of the Acton District Minutemen, and Concord, the people who do the reenacting and so forth. All of them do things to keep our history up. Problem is, it's not being taught in the schools. What is being taught in the schools? God help us. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We have heard this uttered so many different times. Yet we have a contingent of people running around creating mobs, tearing down our history statues under the guise of fighting hatred, when in fact the statues that were erected to people who did fight hatred. They did fight for what they believed in, and they are, like it or not, a part of our American history. I was talking very recently with a very dear friend of mine who lives down in Pensacola, Florida, who is a broadcasting magnate, so to speak, if you will. Brian, how you doing, my friend? Who told me that he came across an area where there was a monument that was struck up to, of all things, Jefferson Davis, who was the one and only president of the American Confederacy. And there was an awful lot of history that he's spoken to me about that I had not heard. I was not aware of about Jefferson Davis. I can't go into it. I don't have the time to go into it now. Perhaps we can address this. Maybe I can bring on Brian in a future upcoming show. We can address this and talk about this at another time. But to this point, the people had not yet gotten to that area to start trying to rip that statue down. So thank God for the fact that there is something left that will tell us our history. I don't give a fiddler's fart about these people who say, well, this flag offends me. You know what? It's part of our history. We can't turn our head away from it. We have to remember it, if for no other reason, to be certain that things like that don't happen again. We should embrace it. Keep the memory alive. How many people do you know of that still talk about things that happened in World War II? In Europe. The death camps. They talk about that still. Why? Because they say, never again. Never again. I have known people who, through this history, lived and survived, suffered in these camps. Never again. And I know, and indeed, I actually have a connection, familial connection, with someone who knows that their great-grandfather and his family and extended family from there all perished in Belsen. Do they forget? Do they sweep it under the carpet? Do they say, well, let's not think about this anymore? No. So why then are we turning around and allowing people to say, well, no, this didn't happen? Get rid of it. No. No. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. We cannot, we must not allow this continued bastardization of our national history. What next? Book burnings? Yes, there are people who are objected to these things. Yes, there are things in our history that are repugnant. We better suck it up and look at it and move on. Remember it so that it doesn't happen again. Stop treating some who know it and who believe in it and know that it's there and welcome it like they're pariahs. If you want to remember history, look at all of it. Look what happened in the 30s when we had the American Depression, the Dust Bowls. What's that? The Great Depression. How many Americans were out of work? How many people lost their homes, their farms, their livelihoods, their jobs, their families, their lives? And how many children come home from school and say, today, Mom, today, Dad, today, whomever that their caregiver is, we learned about the Great Depression. Why is our history not being taught and bastardized to lay by the wayside? It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time that we took issue with our schools. It is time that we took issue with the education system. And it is time that, if necessary, we took the matter into our hands, because the powers that be can't be trusted, and educate our children. It is time for us to look back. You like YouTube? Lord knows there's more than enough information on YouTube. Want to learn about what happened, what really happened in World War II? There's a wonderful program, something that was put together over in England, called The World at War. Watch it. All the chapters of it. You'll see. You'll see about what happened in the days and the years leading up before the war, and how things were changing, and how the winds swept across Europe, causing people to believe the way they did and to do the heinous things. You want to talk about slavery. You want to talk about a need for reparations. That's something to look into. In the meantime, here we are. Now, another item that I want to take, and I want to take a broach if we can, is through all the things that we've had, that we've lived through in the past number of years, we've had an awful lot of opportunists and a lot of things that have been going on and so forth. We've had things forced on us, needle jabs in the arm, masks forced upon us, shelter in place, stay at home, whatever you want to call it, orders. And now, the more we turn around, the more we hear, the more we see. It was all for naught. Everything that went on, it was all useless. Opportunism. Was it opportunistic of the drug companies to take and shove these drugs out, capitalizing on a purported pandemic? Was it opportunistic of our government to mandate all the things that they did, causing monies to be spent on things that were untested, unproven, unknown? You don't think I'm right here? Look what I have right here. Paxlovid. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Paxlovid. This is something that was prescribed. It was not tested, not approved. But it was given an emergency use authorization. Emergency use authorization. Because people were said, oh, it's going to fight a variant of COVID-19. And it came with paperwork. It was a disclaimer saying that they didn't know what it was going to do, and it wasn't tested and so forth. But they were given permission to go ahead and release it by the federal government, so that's okay. No, it's not okay, damn it. No, it's not. When I had fallen ill and I had gone to my doctor's office and I had gotten a prescription, they sent a prescription for this. I said, okay, fine, filled the prescription, wrote it. And I didn't realize, I didn't know until I had gotten home and opened up the package and read all the paperwork, saw that it was something that was not approved. I decided, not on your life. With all the things that have been going on recently, time and time, we keep hearing things about people having these sudden death things. All of a sudden, all these people having these cardiac incidents and dropping dead that seemed perfectly healthy. Perfectly healthy. Was it more corporate opportunism? Is this another example of corporate opportunism? Grabbing another chance at more bucks. Opportunism. Opportunism. Take a look at this. FDA approved supplement. Help prevent radioactive iodine. Soliciting people to buy pills to protect them from radiation. Radiation from what? Nuclear wars, I guess. China's got these balloons going on. Suddenly, well, that means we're going to be a threat. We're going to be going to war. May as well sell iodine tablets. Opportunism. When you see advertisements like this popping up in your news feeds for survival kits, there's nothing wrong with being prepared. But when things like this start coming up, when there are things that are going on, stirring the pot for people to start panicking, preying upon the fears of the American people. Is that opportunism? And finally, I have one other thing I want to show you now. I don't know how many of you have been seeing advertisements for a new type of deodorant, and I have to applaud this lady. She's a doctor, and they call her OBGYN physician. Her and her husband apparently are both doctors, pardon me. And they are selling some newfangled type of deodorant. God bless them. Fantastic. Outstanding. Wonderful. I hope it works. I hope they do wonderful. I applaud the ingenuity. That's the American spirit right there. What do I have a problem with? I'm looking at my Facebook feed, and up comes an advertisement with this lady talking about a thing, and look at this. Advertising where to use it in your ball sack and butt crack. Is this the kind of thing that should be advertised on social media where not only adults, but children are? Can't we be a little more circumspect? At what point in time did the language and the inferences and the explicit sexual overtones become okay? Songs like that WAP I'm one for free speech, absolutely. But whatever happened to the innocence of children? Whatever happened to the goodness of that? It is about time. It is about time for America to pick itself up from all of this. It is time, America. It is time, my American citizens and the visitors here, to get us up out of the gutter. It is time, my friends, my citizens, for us to start building again, respecting again, paying attention again to the right things in what we believe in. I'm Mr. B. I thank you very much for watching. If you like this, share this, tell your friends. Mr. B's got a good one going now. Politicking. And by the way, let me explain that. Politicking. I'm talking politics. Why? Because the politics in America are like a ticking time bomb. And ladies and gentlemen, it is going to blow. This country is going to blow when our politics collapse in and on themselves. I'm Mr. B. I want to say thank you very much to Blazeman, my engineer. I want to say thank you very much to all of the people who've been giving me shout outs and been wishing me so well, for the support of my wife, who in the other room is hearing me doing all of this talking for the last hour, and for everybody else. I want to say thank you all very, very much. We will be back here again on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Please, by all means, tell your friends, spread it around. If you have a subject that you would like me to discuss or broach on, or if perhaps you might like to be a panelist brought in as a guest to help discuss something, let me know and we'll see what we can do. I'm Mr. B, and I want to say thank you very much. I'll see you all again next Wednesday night, 7 p.m., right here on the FFN network. Blazeman, thank you very much. Take it away, my friend.
Hey, this is Jerry from the Neutral Corner on FFN Media. Every Thursday night, 7 to 8, catch my show live. We are talking with legends, we're talking with professionals, we're talking with amateurs, we're also talking about gyms and the different programs they have. You can catch us live on FFN Media, 7 to 8 p.m. Not only can you catch us live, you can actually ask questions in the comments and interact with our guests. Hope to see you then.
Hey guys, Nick Parsons here. Come check my show Unbox Thoughts out. Live every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. on the FFN Radio Network page.
Because at some point in your life, you trusted the information that somebody was giving you. And that someone you trusted told you that a car was a car, a tree was a tree, a bird was a bird, the blue stuff above you is the sky. And that's the way that we began to determine what we believe to be a fact. Most of the things that we believe to be a fact in our lives are told to us through our stories or the news that we hear. So my question would be, if they were deceiving you with the stories they tell you, would you be able to recognize that?